Hi, Bill here. I'd like to look at some opening traps involving attacks on the f7 square. So that's when white is attacking black. When black is attacking white, it will be the f2 square. So in this case, the knight and the bishop are attacking f7. Bishop just goes in mate as the knight stops the king from slipping away. Okay, so now in this case, the queens are opposing each other. The black king is tied in defence to the queen, and it's also defending the pawn, so the king is overloaded. It's doing too many things. So when the bishop captures on f7, the king is deflected away from, or defending the queen, and white wins queen for bishop. Now in this case, black has this move available. So white starts with the check. Now unfortunately for black, after he moves the king up, he does leave the queen defended, but the bishop will skewer the king and the queen, so white will win the queen for the bishop after all. Now, this is a little bit different because without the knight here, this rook will be defending the queen after these two pieces have moved. So let's see what happens. So white sacrifices the bishop. Black takes it. White thinks, oh, I've won a queen for a bishop. But hang on. Black has a discovered attack on the queen. So the bishop moves out of the way with check. And now white's going to lose the queen, so white has nothing better than running back with the queen, and white loses his queen for a bishop, so the whole thing was an exchange. So it's important when you do some tactics, make sure your opponent doesn't have tactics at the end of it. So this time, the f7 square is defended once. It's attacked by a bishop. So one attacker, one defender, they cancel out. It's effectively undefended. This bishop's also undefended. So what white does is sacrifices his bishop, king takes, the queen comes out check. The queen could also come here, so the queen will take the bishop next move. So this time, this queen check's not possible, so the bishop is sacrificed, the queen moves to d5 check and wins the piece back. So not only does white win a pawn, but he's disrupted the black king. It can be quite good if you stop the opponent's king from castling by making it move early in the game. Okay, so now we've got undefended knight, effectively an undefended pawn because the bishop and the king cancel out. So we start off with a sacrifice, the king takes, and the queen checks and will win the knight. So white will gain a pawn, given that a knight and bishop are an equal exchange. So this time we've got a situation where this is under attack and black has an undefended bishop. The bishop is pinning the knight to the queen, but it is undefended. So white starts with a sacrifice. So he's drawing the king onto a square where he can be checked by the knight. Knight gives check, and next move white regains his piece. So again he has won a pawn and also disrupted the black king. Now this is a bit different because the bishop is defended by this knight. However, white still sacrifices because after black takes, white can fork, and he now has two pieces attacking the bishop. So after the king moves, white regains the piece and he's won a pawn and forced the black king to forfeit castling. Okay, so this time the black knight is defending the c6 square, so this knight check will fail. So let's see what happens. So if white tries to sacrifice, the king takes, the knight gives check, white thinks, oh, the king will move, next move I can take the bishop. Black does a counter sacrifice of the queen, and now white's in trouble. If he takes the queen, he loses his own queen. If the queen moves, that gives black time to move his queen. So white actually lost 2 pieces. Okay, now this is a funny position which happens in a certain opening trap. This square is overprotected, it's defended by both the king and the queen, but just so happens to turn out that after white sacrifices, it doesn't matter how black takes back, there's going to be some kind of knight fork of one of the 2 knights. So he takes to the queen, we've got a knight fork on d6. And this time, after the sacrifice, if he takes with the king, the other knight forks on e5. So either way, you win the queen and pawn for 2 minor pieces, which is a pretty good exchange. Okay, so this time, this pawn is undefended. It can be captured because it's got 2 attackers and 1 defender. But the beauty of this position is that white checkmates. So white checks, doesn't matter where the king moves. Queen e6 is mate. So I've seen that happen a few times. So now this time, there's no bishop attacking f7 square, just the knight. So these are lined up. If this bishop moves out of the way, the queens will be attacking each other. So what white does is start off with a knight sacrifice. If there'd been a rook in the corner, that would be a knight fork. So that would make it more difficult for black to decline it. If the king takes the knight, we give a discovered attack. So the queen now defends the undefended queen. The king can't run back to defend it. So white ends up winning the queen for 2 minor pieces. So this time the knight is blocking the bishop, which makes things worse for the defence. Okay, so white starts off with the sacrifice of the bishop. King takes bishop. Knight gives a check. Now black's got to be careful. If he moves backwards, he'll lose the queen. So if he goes back to his home square, the knight will win the queen. So, and other moves, if he moves up, depending on where the white pieces are, there's a very good chance white will have a winning attack. Okay, now we have a pawn chain here, which is bunting the white bishop. It's called biting granite. It's hard for the bishop to do much on this diagonal without sacrificing, because the pawn defends the pawn. So this is the base of the pawn chain. So the capture on f7 destroys the pawn chain. And if black takes back, we have mating one with the queen and bishop. Okay, next one. Okay, so now we have so-called Legal's mate position. So it's a bit like the positions we had where the bishop is sacrificed and we follow up with a knight check to win this undefended bishop. But that particular move order doesn't work. If white takes that, the king will take back. And, well, maybe it does here because the queen is undefended. But that's not what we're looking at. The move of the day is to take the pawn first. So if black takes the queen, we now have a very pretty checkmate with 2 knights and a bishop, which I remember the first time I saw this, I found it absolutely stunning. So the bishop takes the pawn check, king must move up, and the knight moves in mate. Okay, so similar sort of situation, except this time, instead of 2 knights, white's got 2 bishops. So the knight captures on e5, the bishop takes the queen, white checks, king moves up. Instead of mating with a knight on d5, the bishop moves into g5 and mate. And that's the end of the section. So I just wanted to show you the basic patterns of some opening traps involving captures on the f7 square. Though of course I do have a collection of many actual games involving various opening traps. Okay, thank you for watching.